Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be stepping into a fictional world this time.
Ooh. Oh,
Yeah, and we're going to be like piecing together a story from just fragments of text.
interesting. So like a puzzle.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Like if you imagine trying to solve a puzzle, but this puzzle is about someone's life.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
But the catch is, this life is unfolding inside a prison.
Oh, wow. That adds a whole other layer to it.
Yeah, we've got wrongful conviction, we've got the harsh realities of prison life, and even a daring escape plan in the mix.
Sounds intense.
Yep.
Ready. Where do we start?
Let's start with David Miller.
Okay.
He's the kind of main character of our story. And the fragments we have, they immediately pull us into his daily routine,
Oh, I see.
like the cold cell, the terrible food, the constant worry,
Yeah, I can only imagine.
and this ever-present longing for his daughter.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. It really makes you think about what it would be like to be in his shoes, right?
Absolutely. To wake
Oh.
up every day knowing you're innocent, but completely trapped in this nightmare.
And not just physically trapped. I mean, the psychological weight of that situation must be immense.
For sure. Studies have shown that that kind of prolonged isolation can actually, like, change your brain chemistry.
Really?
Leading to increased anxiety, depression, even trouble thinking straight.
Wow, that's heavy stuff.
And the thing is, we learn that David was just a regular guy,
Hmm.
just a mechanic living a simple life,
Okay.
until a murder happened near his garage.
Oh, no.
There wasn't much evidence to go on, just one unreliable witness,
Yeah.
and yet he was found guilty.
That's terrifying. It makes you realize how fragile freedom can be, right?
It really does. It
Yes.
makes you wonder if any one of us could end up in David's shoes.
Yeah, just one piece of unreliable testimony can completely derail your life.
And it's unsettling how subjective human perception can be.
Absolutely. And the justice system relies so heavily on that.
Inside the prison, though, the atmosphere is thick with tension.
I bet.
There are these dangerous groups.
Like gangs.
Yeah, exactly. Like one run by a guy named Marcus. So David constantly has to watch his back.
That's gotta be stressful.
It is. But luckily, he has Frank.
Who's Frank?
Frank is his friend, his confidant in this really bleak environment.
It's amazing how even in those situations, people can find genuine connection.
It's true.
Yeah.
Their bond, it seems like the one bright spot in David's life at this point.
It makes sense. In a place as harsh and isolating as prison, human connection becomes so vital for survival.
I think you're right. Frank represents a kind of normalcy for David,
Yeah.
a reminder of the world outside and a source of support when he's feeling lost and alone.
So in a way, their friendship, it helps to combat the dehumanizing effects of prison.
For sure. And speaking of finding hope amidst the darkness, a new guard arrives at the prison,
Okay.
and he's inexperienced.
Interesting.
And this sparks an idea
Of what?
of escape for David and Frank.
Ooh, this is where it gets exciting.
It is. They start meticulously planning this escape.
So like what kind of planning?
They search for tools, they study the guards' routines, they map out the whole yard.
That takes guts.
It does. Every move they make is risky, because if they get caught,
That's it. No second chances.
exactly, they're really putting everything on the line.
What happens next?
Well, the tension really ratchets up when they discover
What?
crowbars, screwdrivers, ropes,
Whoa. Where?
hidden away in a storage room.
No way. Like a secret stash?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's at this moment that the hope becomes real for them.
It's like a sign.
But it's mixed with a whole lot of anxiety, too.
Of course. Because the stakes are incredibly high.
For them, this escape, it's not just some reckless act.
Right.
It's a calculated risk born out of desperation.
They're trying to reclaim their freedom.
Yeah, they've gone from just enduring their situation to taking control of their destiny.
It's a powerful shift in mindset.
And then D-Day arrives.
Here we go.
We're right there with them, feeling the weight of the moment as they prepare to make their move.
What's going through their minds?
I think there's a sense of shared resolve, this understanding that this could be their last night inside.
It must be a mix of excitement and terror.
Definitely. They slip out of their cells, they make it to the storage room, and Frank starts working on the door with a crowbar.
Can you imagine that sound?
I can. The metal groaning, the tension in the air,
You can practically feel it.
and just when they think they've overcome this obstacle, they crawl out of that storage room and find guards on patrol.
Oh,
And to make matters even worse, Marcus and his men suddenly appear.
what a twist.
Talk about bad timing.
So what happens next? Are they caught?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
I'm on the edge of my seat.
We're left hanging wondering what their next move will be.
This is intense. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Me too.
This is one cliffhanger I need resolved.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But first, I think we need to take a closer look at what led up to this moment.
Good point. Let's rewind a bit.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right, so let's delve a bit deeper into David's story and the dynamics of this prison world.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Let's do it.
Okay, so one thing that really struck me was how the prison itself almost feels like another character in this story. You know,
Interesting. What do you mean by that?
like it's this oppressive force that weighs down on everyone inside.
I can see that.
And we see this especially when we get these glimpses into David's life before prison.
Oh, right. Like the flashbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
his memories of working in his garage, fixing cars, just the simplicity of it all.
And that contrasts so sharply with his current reality.
Right, it's a constant reminder of what he's lost, of the life that was taken from him.
That's gotta be tough.
It is. It's a form of psychological torment.
Makes sense. I mean, he's constantly being confronted with what he's missing.
Yeah. And we also see how people adapt to this kind of environment.
How so?
Well, David mentions how during his first few weeks, he couldn't even look at the prison without feeling overwhelmed with fear.
That's understandable.
But now it's different. He's had to harden himself just to survive.
Wow. So he's essentially suppressing his emotions.
In a way, yeah.
No,
It's a survival mechanism.
But it comes at a cost.
Right. It shows the resilience of the human spirit, but also the dehumanizing effects of prison.
That's a really good point.
And amidst all of this, they're still completely focused on this escape plan.
Of course, freedom is the ultimate goal.
Frank keeps reminding David that once they're out, they have to run, no stopping.
Right. There's no time for hesitation.
There's this constant sense of urgency,
Makes sense. I mean, they know this might be their only shot.
It's a do or die situation.
They've come this far, risked so much.
Exactly. Failure is not an option.
And as the night of the escape gets closer, do we see any change in their demeanor?
Yeah. There's this flicker of excitement from Frank. He starts talking about how much he's looking forward to seeing the outside world again.
That's gotta be a powerful feeling.
It is. And David echoes that sentiment.
So even in this dark place, hope still flickers.
It does. It's remarkable how the human spirit can find those glimmers of hope, even in the most dire circumstances.
I agree. It's what keeps them going, what fuels their determination to break free.
And then the moment arrives, they slip out of their cells, make their way to the storage room, and Frank starts working on that door with the crowbar.
Oh, the suspense is killing me.
That metal groaning, the tension in the air, it's palpable.
I bet.
And just when they think they've cleared this hurdle,
What happens?
they crawl out of that storage room.
Yeah.
Guards on patrol.
Oh, no.
And then out of nowhere, Marcus and his men show up.
This is bad. This is really bad.
It's a major twist.
What are they going to do?
That's what we're left wondering. We're right there with them, holding our breath, not knowing what's going to happen next.
It's like the story itself is mirroring the uncertainty and danger of their situation.
Exactly. And it makes you think about how quickly things can change, how fragile their hope of freedom really is.
This is where we leave them hanging.
For now,
I'm hooked. What happens next?
but we'll have to delve into that in the next part of our deep dive.
I can't wait.
But for now, we're left with these unanswered questions.
So many questions.
And I think that's part of what makes this story so compelling.
It's true. We're left to imagine the possibilities to grapple with the same anxieties and hopes that David and Frank must be feeling.
It's a reminder that even the best laid plans can be disrupted,
Absolutely.
that sometimes things spiral beyond our control.
Life is full of unexpected twists and turns.
This story definitely throws a few our way.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I think we need to dig a little deeper into the power dynamics at play here.
Good idea. Let's unpack that a bit.
All right, so remember Marcus and his men.
The ones who showed up at the worst possible moment.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we know they have their own agenda, their
Yeah.
own motives within the prison.
Right. They're not just random antagonists.
Exactly. And this encounter with David and Frank, it raises a lot of questions about how their escape plan will play out.
Definitely. It adds a whole new layer of complexity.
It's not just about overcoming the physical barriers of the prison anymore.
Right. They're also navigating this web of social hierarchies and personal vendettas.
And this unexpected encounter with Marcus's men, it just throws another wrench into their plans.
It makes you wonder if they'll be able to adapt to this new challenge.
And on top of that, we have to remember that the guards are still out there.
True, they haven't even attempted the actual escape yet.
This run-in with Marcus's men, it's just one obstacle among many.
It highlights the constant threat that surrounds them.
They're operating under extreme pressure, and every decision they make could have serious consequences.
It's a reminder that their path to freedom is anything but certain.
So as we move forward with this deep dive,
Mhm.
I think it's important to keep those things in mind.
Agreed. The stakes are higher than ever, and we're about to enter uncharted territory.
The tension is building, and we're all eager to see what happens next.
I'm ready for the next part of this story.
Me too. Let's dive in.
So we're picking up right where we left off with David and Frank in that precarious situation.
Yeah, caught between a rock and a hard place, right?
Exactly. With Marcus and his men on one side and the guards on the other.
What a mess. Talk about a dilemma.
It's like the worst possible scenario just unfolded right in front of them.
And with those source materials ending so abruptly, it's like we're left in the dark too.
I know, right? It's like the story itself is mirroring the uncertainty of their situation.
It's almost as if the author wanted to leave us hanging like that.
Maybe to make us really feel the tension?
Yeah. I mean, we're left to imagine what happens next, to grapple with those same anxieties and hopes that David and Frank must be experiencing.
It's actually quite brilliant when you think about it. It turns us into active participants in the narrative.
Instead of just passive observers.
Exactly. We're not just reading about their escape, we're kind of living it with them.
And it really makes you think about the weight of their choices, right?
Oh, absolutely. Knowing that one wrong move could have disastrous consequences.
It's like every decision is a gamble.
And the stakes are incredibly high.
This whole situation really highlights how fragile their hope of freedom is.
Yeah, it can be shattered so easily.
One minute they're making progress towards their goal, the next minute they're faced with a whole new set of obstacles.
It's a constant reminder that even the best laid plans can be disrupted.
Life is full of surprises, right?
Yeah,
Especially in a place like prison.
it's a volatile environment. Anything can happen.
And it forces them to adapt, to constantly reevaluate their strategy.
It's like they're playing a game of chess where the rules keep changing.
And they're always one step away from checkmate.
It's mentally and emotionally exhausting.
I can only imagine. But it also speaks to their resilience.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely. They haven't given up hope. They're still fighting for their freedom.
Even when the odds are stacked against them.
It's that determination that keeps them going.
And it makes me wonder, what would I do in that situation?
That's a question we all have to ask ourselves, I think.
Would I have the strength to keep fighting?
Would I be willing to risk everything for a chance at freedom?
It's a heavy question.
It is, and it gets at the heart of what this story is really about.
What do you mean?
It's not just about the physical act of escaping from prison.
It's about something more.
Yeah, it's about the psychological and emotional journey of these two men.
Who are desperately seeking autonomy in a system that's designed to strip them of it.
Exactly. They're fighting for their humanity as much as they're fighting for their freedom.
And it forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about the justice system.
And about our own beliefs about freedom and responsibility.
So as we continue to explore this story, I think it's important to keep those things in mind.
Agreed. The stakes are higher than ever, and the choices that David and Frank make will have profound consequences.
We're about to enter the final chapter of their journey, and I have a feeling it's going to be a wild ride.
I'm ready. Let's see where this story takes us. All right, so last we left our protagonists, they were in a pretty tricky spot.
To say the least, right?
Between Marcus and his crew and the guards, I mean, talk about a no-win situation.
And I keep thinking about how if this was a movie, we'd be like right at the edge of our seats.
Oh, for sure, nails bitten down to the nubs.
But in this case, we don't get that nice, neat resolution.
Right. We're left with these fragments and the silence in between.
Which is actually pretty powerful when you think about it.
It is. It makes it so much more real in a way.
Like we're experiencing the same uncertainty that David and Frank must be feeling.
Exactly. We don't know if they make it out of that encounter unscathed or if it all goes wrong.
And it makes you wonder about the author's intention, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Like, were they trying to make a statement about the randomness of life?
Or about the limits of hope.
Maybe it's a reflection of how often things just don't go according to plan.
Especially in a place like prison.
Where danger lurks around every corner.
And control is an illusion.
It's a harsh reality check.
And it forces us to confront some uncomfortable questions.
About justice, about freedom, about the choices we make when our backs are against the wall.
It's like this story, it's not just entertainment.
No, it's a mirror reflecting some hard truths back at us.
And it makes you think about the power of these fragments.
Right? Absolutely. How, even though they're incomplete, they paint such a vivid picture.
Of these characters' lives, their struggles, their hopes.
And their resilience.
Yeah, that really shine through.
Even in the face of such adversity.
And I think that's what makes this story so impactful,
Agreed. It stays with you long after you finish reading,
It makes you question things, makes you feel things.
and maybe even inspires you to fight for something better.
So even though we're left with more questions than answers,
I think there's a beauty in that ambiguity,
it allows us to fill in the gaps with our own interpretations.
and to find our own meaning in the story.
And ultimately, I think that's what makes this deep dive so worthwhile.
Agreed. It's been a journey
One that's challenged us to think differently
to see the world through new lenses,
and to appreciate the power of storytelling.
even in its most fragmented form.
Well said. So, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
I agree, but I have a feeling this story will stick with us for a while.
I think you're right. And who knows, maybe someday we'll uncover more fragments that shed light on David and Frank's fate.
Now that would be something.
It would. Until then, we're left to ponder the possibilities.
And to appreciate the journey we've taken together.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.